Okay, let's get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending today's journey through America's newsrooms with Recurrent Ventures. Today we have some editors from some of their great publications here to speak with us and give us some insight into how their newsrooms work, what they look for in contributing writers and pieces. And hosting today is Patrick George, the editorial director for Recurrent's Autos and Military Division. Patrick, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm here with a bunch of the editors at our company, ones that we work with every day. I'm really excited to be involved with this group of folks, and hopefully a few more will join us in a little bit. I'm going to go into our company a little bit, but part of this reason I wanted to put this together when Devin and Russell reached out was I think that we're a good example of there's a lot of different things you can do in journalism. When I was starting out as a young newspaper reporter, kind of the path that was laid out for me by people I learned from was, you have to be a city desk or a business desk or sports desk or state desk reporter. Then you go work at a bigger and bigger newspaper, and that's going to be your career. But today you're going to hear from a lot of folks who do a lot of really different things across the board. And from a company that's doing some really interesting things and is being built by some really cool people. So I'm gonna go ahead and present my screen. And I put a little presentation together. And when you see it, you're definitely gonna be like, don't quit your day job, Patrick, but don't let me feel bad about it otherwise. Okay, cool. Is this it? There we go. Can everybody see that okay? All right, cool. There's my little deck. I did steal this from a corporate slide. It's part of it says for some reason, confidential, do not distribute. I think that's just part of the template we have. Don't worry about it. I don't really care if you keep it confidential or distribute it or not. So I'll talk a little bit about our company, Recurrent. We are a VC-backed startup media company that acquires, invests in, and scales digital media brands. We've been around for about 5 years now, 5 or 6 years. And started with one site two really, that drive in the war zone, and have with the 2 editors of whom you're going to be hearing from today. And they have grown tremendously since then. We're at about 20 plus publications now. They operate some of the most impactful and iconic publications of the internet. And we have right now publications in the automotive, defense, home, science, tech, outdoors, and lifestyle areas. I don't think I've forgotten anyone, but if any of my editors here, many of my colleagues think I did, just please correct me. We're a young company, and as many of the editors on this call will attest to you, it's very much a place where we are building the machine as we drive it down the road, as we often say. But I mean, with that comes with some good opportunities, I think, to reinvent how media works and correct some of the things that have been not so great about it. Some of the pluses for working with us: good benefits, competitive pay. The startup-like atmosphere I mentioned, all full-time employees get equity. And I know some folks at MVJ asked about this too, but we're a virtual first company. That means work from anywhere, including, we have some folks who are all over the world. One of our senior colleagues, we were on a video call with her in Copenhagen today. Get your work done, we don't care where you work. I think they've managed that very well in pandemic. We do have office hubs that are used in New York, San Francisco, Miami, and Austin too. We also have a heavy focus on sustainability and environmental coverage here, and we're going to be doing more of that on both the news and features front and on our extensive e-commerce end. The folks who founded our company are really big in the sustainability space, and we, as responsible journalists who believe in things like science, are doing what we can to help combat and cover the realities of climate change across all of our properties. So that's, I think, one thing that makes us really kind of special and different in this space. Our jobs page is at the bottom. I'm going to post that at a couple other points in this presentation. But let's see if we can. I'll move on from there. And by the way, I think these stats are a little outdated. We're about 60 million people a month across all the properties, and I think it's up to 22 brands right now. And then we got a good clip recently about our employees can work from anywhere. There's some nice guy down there happily, firing off some hot takes from his laptop from wherever he's posted up, and not in an office. So cool. I'm going to get started I'll put this to my friend Corinne Iozio, the editor-in-chief of Popsci, and she's going to tell you about how they operate over here. Corinne, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. Thanks, Patrick, for that great intro. So Popsci is a 149-year-old brand. We will actually be 150 in 6 short weeks. Our big sesquicentennial celebration kicks off in May. And, it's Popsci is in an interesting spot right now and has really been in a serious transition for the last 5 to 10 years, right? As the place of science and tech have taken on greater roles in our day-to-day lives, and people are just generally much more engaged and aware with general scientific discourse, right? So we've, as a brand with a long legacy of being what I would say, very future-focused, very future-centric, Popsci was always looking, our famous old covers about with flying cars and jetpacks and Jetsons houses in the sky, right? And you notice us over the last several years have been really shifting our focus to be more of the now, and a lighthouse that really strives to unpack all of the complexities of pandemics, data privacy, and just as 2 top of mind examples of the ways that science and tech really are just entrenched in our day-to-day in a way that they haven't really been before. So this is sort of the modern incarnation of a 150-year-old mission, which is to be the most accessible place for science and technology coverage available, right? When we talk about ourselves, we always talk about ourselves in contrast to some of our biggest competitors, places like Wired and Gizmodo and The Verge, which are a little bit, I would say, we talk about like the coastal voice, and what Popsci strives for is a very accessible voice, right? We're funny, we're not snarky, right? We unpack the jargon, we meet people where they are, and that's part of what's made us find a pretty good home here at Recurrent, right? Because a lot of what we look at and a lot of what our team thinks about is, what are the questions that people asking? What are people punching into Google, right? To anticipate those things and help people understand. The example that I always point to here as a really crystallized way to think about that is when it became clear at the end of 2020 that not only we were going to have COVID-19 vaccinations, but we were going to have more than one. Just the sheer fact of knowing that meant that we were able to put a piece of content out there that was very successful and very helpful to people, that basically just answered the simple question that's on the tip of everyone's brain. It's like, does it freaking matter which COVID vaccine I get? And that's where we live. That's our happy place. Obviously we have a mix. I have a content strategy or content mix philosophy that I call, that is a food metaphor, because who doesn't love food and who doesn't understand it? So we have a balanced diet of snacks, which are quick news posts, meals, which are reported news analysis posts or day 2 stories, and then feasts, which are our big fulsome narrative features, big feature packages, stories that you really dig in and go through a lot of editing and a ton of reporting to be able to produce. So we have a couple platforms that these things land on. Popsci.com is our largest platform. We average between 5.5 and 6 million unique visitors a month. And then we also have our premium product, the digital incarnation of our legacy of our print magazine, which is a quarterly digital edition that is a magazine-like experience, takes the same amount of time, just doesn't have that, older school thing where we're, quaint and printing it on paper and putting it on newsstands. And the way our team is structured, though, much more in a traditional newsroom style, where we have desks. So Popsci has a desk editor for science, which encompasses space, health, physics, environment, sustainability, and on and on. We have a tech desk that focuses on transportation, automotive, military, the internet, privacy, data security, a DIY desk, which is probably the thing that is the truest expression of Popsci's legacy, which is how to implement, how to take science and tech and apply it to your life, right? Whether that's through projects or really smart science-backed advice, right? We had a really excellent piece go up about a month and a half ago when there was a big baby formula shortage, right? So we talked to health experts, we talked to pediatricians, we talked to chemists, like what can someone do if they can't find baby formula, right? There's a science, so that's based on the notion that there's a scientifically backed answer to any question. That's our DIY team. And then we have our gear and reviews team, which is pretty much just what it sounds like, all the cool, shiny stuff that we love to write about and really separate bad products from good products and good products from great ones. And so we probably have about like a 50-50 mix of stories that are written by staffers. Either we have a couple staff writer positions and our editors also all write. And then the other half comes from freelancers. The lion's share of our freelance budget is spent on features, though, those stories that take a lot of time. And what we look for most, I know I'm just thinking through the bullet points you shared with us, Patrick, making sure I hit all the right notes. What we look for most in freelance pitches, right, is somebody peeling, the phrase that I use is Popsci features make the extraordinary ordinary, and that we take something that feels so far off and so complex and we find a way to tell a story about it, to create a narrative about something as complex and mind-bending as dark matter by humanizing it through the stories of the scientists who are trying to help figure out and solve these puzzles. Or we take the ordinary and we make it extraordinary. I'll give you an example. I was editing a feature today that's about the Ball Company, which is the people who originally made these jars, and about their unlikely journey into also being an aerospace company, right? So that's something that is very ordinary that we make extraordinary, right? And that's what gets us excited, when it's something that is surprising, but also revelatory and relatable. So that's really what we look for from feature writers. We also do commission a little bit of just day-to-day stories on popsci.com. And what we really look for there is, like, we're not going to be commissioning news, right? We want the yes and story, right? What's your unique angle? What's your unique take on a story? What are you bringing to this? How are we moving that conversation forward? And so we have a freelance budget for things like that, that each desk has money to bring in those stories, to make sure that we're expanding the voices, but also the perspectives of what we deliver to our readers. The other thing that's also very germane to this conversation is, in addition to coming in as a freelancer, we also have an internship program that we run at Popsci, and that's an open call. We ask for people to be able to commit to at least 20 hours a week, and we pay, and that's a paid internship hourly. And that's probably our greatest source of people, getting into our universe and then also like matriculating up into the staff. So that's Popsci. I think I did everything, but I'm open for, I don't know if we're doing questions now or at the end.
I think we're doing them at the end, but that was incredibly awesome. Thank you so much, Corinne. And I just wanted to add what I meant to say this at the very beginning, but pretty much all of our publications at this whole company, we have a lot of jobs open right now. We're hiring a lot of people, and all of these publications are all basically, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I think we're always looking for good freelancers and contributors and pitches. So whether you're looking for a staff gig or you're just going to get your name out there and you have good ideas, like, we want to talk to you. We're always looking for good contributors. Corinne set the bar really high with that. I'm going to move on now to Josh Schulmeyer at Mel. There we go. Josh, you on? You might be.
As always, I can only lower the bar. So happy to do that with flair. My name is Josh Schulmeyer. I'm the editor-in-chief and also the co-founder of Mel. I think the best way to describe Mel, we like to think of ourselves as a 21st century Esquire, but probably we've been more compared to an Esquire meets Vice. I think we've really tried over the last 5 or 6 years to reinvent men's lifestyle content in the way that women's lifestyle content was reinvented by Jezebel and New York Magazine's The Cut and a few other publications. I wanted to do the same thing with men. I wanted to look at sort of where modern masculinity was going. Obviously, there's been a lot of social change and upheaval in the country and world. And I didn't think that there were any publications out there that were talking to men in the ways that I was talking to my friends quietly over a few drinks when we really got honest with each other. So, we don't really pretend that we have any answers. We're here more to just chronicle what's happening. We have no problems saying the things that everybody thinks. We're pretty good at that, actually. So yeah, in terms of how our newsroom functions, I'm in beautiful sunny Los Angeles. So we function a little bit more like a TV writer's room, in large part because we're sort of, it's so much later when we wake up. Everybody else has already lived quite a life when we sign in at 8:30. So, my staff, obviously we do a lot of pitching and whatnot over Slack and other email. But we do an old-fashioned writer's room where for 45 minutes to an hour, everybody has to get on the screen with me and just tell me everything that's on their mind, everything that they're thinking about. And, we laugh, we try to shape some of that stuff. We walk away with a fair amount of ideas. We are a little bit more of a magazine, an online magazine, than we are, I would say, a news site. We do publish 10 to 12 pieces a day. So it's not as though we're not publishing at a fair internet clip. But I like to often say Mel's much more about the zeitgeist than it is about the news cycle. We try to talk about a lot of the topics. Patrick, you really want me to move on here? Is that my cue? That's the cane to rip me off stage.
No, you're good. I figured out how to hide the video thing. Sorry, I don't host a lot of Zooms, so the video thing's gone, and you can continue with your rousing speech. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, so we try to take a much bigger look at stuff, and when I was growing up, my favorite part of magazine journalism was the voice, and how even 150 or 250 word piece always was about something else. It wasn't necessarily about what you thought it was. And so we really push everybody on staff to think hard about, what all of these things represent. So, or things like Seinfeldian type, Curb Your Enthusiasm type stuff, like this piece we did today that Patrick has up here about snoring deniers and people that are in relationships where one person snores really badly, but then blatantly lies about it, even when they're shown evidence and audio of it. I love that kind of stuff. Those human, really resonant human stories, I think are really a fun way to talk about stuff. We are, I've had a lot of the same staff for a long time. We have sort of a distinct voice, and we kind of know a good fit when we see one. That said, everybody kind of tries out a little bit before they join. We're always looking for new people in terms of kind of who gets what we're trying to get after. But we really like to have the environment of really working with us. Doesn't mean that we don't work with freelancers. We work with a lot of freelancers, but it's almost always with an eye toward bringing them into a more permanent fold. And then Patrick, you said, what will Mel be like in the future? Well, global domination. I think that is the real goal. No, I mean, we want to continue. I don't think our mission is over in terms of talking to men about what's going on. I think in some ways it's more urgent than ever, not that we're curing cancer or anything. And, I think we have a long way to go to continue to interrogate where the world is headed vis-a-vis masculinity. And, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm still delighted by it every day, trying to figure out ways into topics that other people are uncomfortable about or are scared to talk about. And we've, earned a lot of plaudits for being able to do that with a certain degree of style. So that's me. Now you can rip me off stage, Patrick.
No, Josh, that was awesome, man. Thank you for doing that. That's one of our newest sites in this group, and one of the most exciting. And they're doing a lot of cool stuff on the news front now too. So the only good things coming from Mel. Now we're going to a publication that's near and dear to my heart, is The Drive. And you're going to be hearing from their wonderful editor-in-chief, Kyle Charamka, and his ace deputy editor, Kristen Lee. I'm going to mute myself and let you two go from there.
No, again, before we even get started, onto the domino slide.
I'm not very good at running MC on Zoom, if you can't tell. So again, I should quit my day job, whatever that is. All right, go for it, man.
That's okay. Hi, everybody. Like Patrick said, I'm Kyle Charamka. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Drive. And as it says right there, we seek to be the internet's premier destination for news, features, car reviews, and any sort of guide, how-to product review thing about modern automotive culture and car enthusiasm at large. So kind of what we're all about is very similar to what you heard from Corinne about Popsci. Is we look at automotive media and we see places like Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend. They're all very focused on particular things. Like Car and Driver does big car reviews. That's basically their entire bag is car reviews. Motor Trend is, well, they do a lot of advertising. They do videos. They do have a whole video on demand operation. But they don't really have a core editorial product, so to speak, anymore. And then Road and Track is sort of lifestyle-y, for rich people who can buy lots of cars and like to read about themselves in a magazine. We are trying to figure out, what does the future of car enthusiasm look like? And in particular, how do we harness that vision and that energy and turn it and sort of express it through a publication that is for everybody? We want to take that exclusive feeling that automotive press kind of sometimes has, where it's all these people having fun and the rest of the internet or the world looking at them being like, well, that's interesting, but it's not really relevant to my life. And we try to focus on news and feature stories and any kind of story really, that makes connections for people between like the cars that they love, the things that they love about cars, and where that's going in the future with electrification, with autonomous cars, with self-driving cars, with consolidation of companies and platforms, with this new era of technology that we're moving into. And so there's countless stories out there along those lines. But additionally, there's still plenty of stories to talk about, the classic enthusiasm that we all have for cars. Everybody who works here is a car nut. You kind of have to be to do this job, because otherwise it gets really boring really quickly. But the key is that we want to find stories that are being ignored by the rest of the automotive press, because it either doesn't fit into the mission of we just have to review every car under the sun, or we only write about things that are very, here's this new car coming out, here's this new trim package coming out, here's this new aftermarket product coming out that you can put on your car. Here's this new mod, here's this new law that, could affect you one day as a car owner. All those are great, but there's still a ton of stories out there of just like people with their cars doing interesting things, making connections with people. It really is about finding that common thread of enthusiasm that we all share and exploring it to the nth degree, basically, and finding every single corner that we can to explore that and push that. And it even goes beyond cars too. I mean, we write about, massive engineering projects. We write about transportation. We write about aviation. We write about, we have the war zone, as Tyler will tell you about, also lives on The Drive, and they cover a lot of military stuff. So we leave that to the experts. But really, if it moves, it's a potential story for The Drive. And if you follow that logic to its end, it actually doesn't end. Like, there's limitless stories that we can tell. And that's kind of how we like to approach the news. I mean, in a given day, the automotive industry has maybe 5 or 6 stories that everyone is talking about, everyone's paying attention to. Here's this new car that was revealed. Here's this crazy Guinness World Record that an automaker just set for the publicity, and so on and so forth. And then what do we do outside of that? That's what we spend most of our time trying to figure out. And that's just news. And so I'm going to kick it over to Kristen to talk about how we think about feature stories, which again are the longer, meatier, the meals, as Corinne succinctly put it, and also car reviews, which that is obviously one of the big things that people want to know about, is like, oh, your job is just to review cars. It's like, well, unfortunately, no, but it is part of the job. And, we try to do it to the best of our ability. So I'll kick it over to Kristen now to explain.
Hello, I'm the deputy editor at The Drive, and as Kyle said, I basically look after all of the reviews and features that hit our front page. And the way that I always approach our reviews and features actually comes from a deeply personal spot, because I grew up reading a lot of car media. And after a while, I noticed that all of it, one, sounded the same, and two, all of it kind of felt like it was being written towards the same person, which is straight white men. And I am neither of those things. So I thought that if I could try to, make a change or something, it would be to create stories, create car, automotive, transportation stories that appeal to a wider range of people, because we have a really, really wide readership, and if we kind of gatekeep our content, it doesn't really help anybody. So in a feature, what we look for is a story that no one else is telling. And like Kyle said, there's only 5 big stories of the day, so you do have to look a little harder and look under some more rocks to find those stories. But so much of, I think, traditional car writing it focuses on the same heroes, the same cars to look up to, the same 4 people to aspire to. And I think when you look a little harder and you look a little further, maybe a little further back, or in places that other people don't think to look, then you start to find these compelling stories of people that haven't really been told before. So that's something I encourage from anybody who wants to pitch a freelance story to us. And my hope is that when people see this nice spread of stories on our front page, they think, oh, here's a story that I have been thinking about and maybe hadn't considered pitching to anyone because it doesn't seem like it would have a place at a traditional automotive site, but they look at our site and they think, oh, I think actually this might work. So we have a group of core freelancers that I work with pretty closely, and I think they all recognize this and they know when to bring us these stories. So it's kind of a nice system that we've set up. As for reviews, also same place of frustration. I grew up reading a lot of reviews, and it always felt like the reviewer was writing the car in a very, very self-indulgent kind of way, and it didn't really help anybody else. So one of the philosophies that we try to chase down when we're writing a car review is always put the reader first. It's not a secret that in this job, we get a lot of cool perks where we get to drive a lot of very cool cars for free, and we get paid to do it. And the important thing is to know that a car is a thing that someone is reading to buy most of the time. And it's important to keep in mind who that person is and why they are reading your review. So it really depends. Like sometimes, yeah, okay, you get to drive a Ferrari and that's really, really cool. And you have to think about what kind of story that is. Someone who's reading a Ferrari review, are they looking to buy a Ferrari, or are they looking to see what it was like from the driver's seat? And in a case like that, yeah, you're going to want to know what it's like from driver's seat. But if you write a Toyota Corolla, you can't evaluate it like it's a Ferrari, because someone who's reading a Corolla review is actually trying to buy a Corolla. So you can't dunk on, the fact that you think it was slow or you think it was cheap or anything like that. And I think that's something that we do that really sets us apart from all of the other publications out there.
Absolutely. And what Kristen said, I forgot to say it in my spiel, but it's absolutely right. Putting the reader first is pretty much what we do. It's a rare thing, I think, especially in this space, because with automotive media in particular, most people come into this through their own passions, right? They love cars, they want to work with cars, they want to work around cars, they want to live their life through cars, basically. And you can get caught up in the fact that, yeah, it's a cool job, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's easy to sort of easily cross the T's and dot the I's and feel like you've done the job, when in fact, all you've done is just share how excited you were to drive this car, how awesome it was for you personally to experience that. And to Kristen's point, that doesn't really serve anybody. And we ultimately, so just a quick background about me. I came to this job from working at CNN for a few years, and I have a journalism degree. I believe very strongly in like the classic tenets of journalism and the fact that it's our job to inform and be accurate and to not get in the way of the story. And I think that that's a rare thing as well in this space, and that we believe that this is a job that matters. Like Josh said, we're not curing cancer, but it matters to people. This matters because people care very deeply about cars, number one. But number two, cars are the second biggest purchase that most people will ever make, or the biggest purchase that they'll ever make. And that is a huge deal, that you want to say that you can be trusted to advise someone to make that decision in their lives. You got to take that responsibility seriously. You just have to. And more importantly, cars are just everywhere. I mean, we're an enthusiast publication, but we try to write for a general audience, because if you tell the right story, anybody can appreciate it if it's about a car. It doesn't matter, because if they're not a nut like the rest of us, like you can just package it the right way, and they'll see the thread that it's like, oh yeah, I see that commonality. I see that thing that, you know, connects it to my own experience. And we get that, and we try to manifest that every day. And so speaking of a day, so a typical day in the Drives newsroom, you know, we're a remote team, as everybody here pretty much is. And so we've got people spread across all time zones across the country. And it's just sort of a mad dash to get the news out. We generally publish about 10 stories a day, 10 to 15 stories a day. We have, you know, 6 full-time writers and editors, another 5 sort of full-time contract freelancers who, you know, write with us when they can hang out, and then they do other things, you know, with the rest of their lives. But it's a really communal and collaborative atmosphere where we all pitch in on stories and we all work together. We all workshop things together. We're not precious about anything. And it's a really I think it's a really great place to work, if I do say so myself. That's pretty much it. And just about real quick about the future. I mean, we want to be the people's guide to the future. We want to be the portal through which they feel like they can view the rest of car culture and get a real read on what's going on, and feel like they're in good hands while they're doing it. So that's what we're all about. And that's my speech.
Cal, that was awesome. Thank you for doing that. I will tell you real quick, I'm just closing out Slack here. I'll tell you also, there's not a better group of editors and mentors in the automotive space than those two right now. They're the best at what they do, and they've built a really amazing, fast-growing organization that's been really successful the last 2 years. So if you're into speed, you will not find a better group of editors than Kyle and Kristen and their crew. And another site I really like is Domino Magazine. We're going to hear now from Lydia Geisel, who's the home editor at Domino. They've been a Recurrent pub since, I think, 2020. We kind of invaded their office in New York, and then we're moving to a new, you know, occasional spot. But they are one of the top names in the home space, and really excited to hear what Lydia has to say. Lydia, you there? You on?
Yes. I'm actually in our former Domino, now Recurrent office, at least until we're here until like July or something, but I'm in our conference room today. But yeah, excited to share a little bit about Domino and everything that we do. But if you aren't familiar with Domino, as the slide says, we like to think of Domino as the ultimate guide for a stylish life and home. So we are primarily interior design oriented, but we also have a crossover with lifestyle. So our readers come to us for home decor and shopping advice. Another big section is our exclusive home tours. And then we also dabble in entertaining tips. So I would say those are our 3 main things. And we're probably a little less newsy than some of the other brands at Recurrent, but in terms of news, we, you know, keep tabs on collections. Again, we're like a super shopping oriented celebrity news. And then a lot of our readers in the past few years have been really interested in like real estate and moving content. So where people are moving, especially during the pandemic. But Domino has an interesting story. It started as a print magazine with Condé Nast back in 2005. And then around 2008, when the recession hit, the publication shut down. And in 2013, it came back with the print magazine, but also domino.com, which is how a lot of our readers know us today. And within the past year, we have transitioned from having a physical print magazine to everything is fully, totally online now. So we have a quarterly digital issue. Our latest one just launched this week, which is really exciting. And I like to tell people it has the same look and feeling, and the features in the digital issue are just as amazing as what we did for print. So I actually think it's really nice because there's like links and movement and engagement, and in terms of the future, that's like where we're heading. But I think like something that sets us apart from other home publications and shelter magazines is that we're really focused on the people and the homeowners and their stories. We like to say that our home tours tell the story of not just how a home came to be and what's in it, but the people that live there and how they use and live in the space on a day-to-day basis. Just about me, I started at Domino in 2017, which is when I graduated college. I was a fan of domino.com. I used it to help me decorate like my dorm rooms. So I started as an intern and just have been here ever since, just slowly crawling my way up. I live in New York City now, which is where, at least when I started, we were in office. So, but when I started, I was living in Pennsylvania and commuted 2 hours every day there and here and back for almost a year, just because it is a really fun environment. I love the people here, and it's changed a lot over the past 4 years, but only in good ways, I think. But yeah, today as the home editor, I write and edit a lot of our home tours and DIYs and before and afters. So renovation is kind of my beat. And in addition to our Domino Instagram, which some people don't necessarily know about our site, but just know about our Instagram. We also have a separate Instagram that's just dedicated to renovation content, which has been taking off. So I try to serve that space a lot, and am constantly, scouting TikTok and Pinterest and YouTube for people, cool homeowners who are really hands-on. I think we try to give our readers like a lot of service and get into like the nitty-gritty of how much certain things cost, and like try to keep things as real as possible. And then another part of my role is overseeing a large part of our freelancers and assigning those stories out and managing those expenses. But our editorial team is fairly small, but we're growing pretty quickly. I would say there's around like core 10 people who are actively writing and editing content. And, some of us like me focus on a lot of the project-based and home tours and DIYs. And then we have a few writers who are just dedicated to shopping content. And then outside of that, we have, a design team that helps create these digital issues and beautiful imagery. And we have in-house photographers and stylists and just so many creative people. But yeah, that's kind of the general gist of Domino. And then I guess in terms of what we look for when we're recruiting, particularly like editorial assistants or just editors in general, interest in home in some way is obviously a big plus for us, great writing skills, and I think attention to detail in writing, and understanding what makes a good story visually and as a narrative. And those are the main things, I think. So
Lydia, thank you so much. And for anyone who's interested in home and garden outdoors, like that section of this company is expanding very quickly. I think they're adding some more publications to that portfolio very soon. So that's a big growth area space for us. And I think certainly with everybody probably at home a lot more than they used to be, looking at their space and wondering, how can I make this better? I think there's a lot of opportunities for great writers and thinkers to be a part of that. Next two publications last on our list. If you're on this call, you almost certainly know who these two are. I'll start with Task and Purpose and Paul Zolder, who's one of MVJ's own board members, editor-in-chief of the site. And Paul's going to talk about their operation and how much it's grown. Paul, you there, man?
Yep. Hey, hello everybody. Hi, MVJ. Thanks for being here. So hey, I'm Paul Zolder. I'm the editor-in-chief of Task and Purpose, as PG said. We were founded in 2014, and it's kind of it started out as a an outgrowth of, it was like a blog from a veterans job kind of board kind of thing that's morphed into what it is today, which is a really highly impactful and widely read organization that covers a lot of news about the military. We like to cover what those in the military and the veteran community are talking about. So when I'm scrolling on, I'm a Marine Corps veteran myself, so the things I'm scrolling in my feed on, Instagram and Facebook, and I'm in all the groups, and so are my writers, all lurking in the online and the military sphere. Just watching what people talk about and what they find interesting, and that's a lot of what we do. We try to tell the story of what's happening in the U.S. military from a unique perspective. We're really authentic. And we really want to bridge the civilian military divide of understanding between the military and the U.S. military and Americans. Most Americans don't really have a good understanding of what their military does. They support it. They think it's doing good things out there, but they don't ask many questions or really take much interest in it. And it's not anything against them. They're just, most people are really busy and it's not really relevant to their lives. And so we look for those opportunities where it is, where they're interested in looking to find the answers to questions on military topics. That's really our bread and butter. Most recently with the the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we've taken this to heart, and that's kind of that's come across in just the normal, like, here is what's happening in the news and what's going on in Ukraine, just the basics of what's happening with the story. But really, why people are coming to us and reading our coverage, it's because we can tap into experts and sources that will explain what the hell is actually interesting and what people really should be looking for when we talk about these topics. So much of the wider media, not the military media, but the wider media covers military topics, but they don't really know what they're necessarily reporting on, at least all the nuances and all the context, especially when it comes to history around things. And so we try to bring all that in and make it a really, really compelling story each and every day. So let me see the bullet points here. A typical day of a task and purpose, the task and purpose newsroom, it's similar to what others have mentioned. We're all Slack, we're all remote. I'm actually in my backyard. This is in Dana Point, California, and I am somehow able to run a team of reporters on the East Coast every day, thankfully with the help of a really great deputy editor. And we all sign on at our appointed time, and we just start immediately talking about pitches and what we're seeing out there and what's happening, what we see, what we see people talking about. And then we start talking about that and develop the concepts of how we want to cover things. So we have competitors, obviously. We've got military.com, we've got Military Times, Coffee or Die is also one. And, I found that a lot of the time our competitors will cover a story just because it's a story. Like there's just something happened and we're just going to cover it now. So the Pentagon just announced this thing. We realize that the Pentagon announces a whole lot of things that are unimportant, nobody cares, nobody wants to read about, and we don't write about them. We skip those topics in favor of the things that actually matter to our readers. And one of the most annoying things I repeatedly say to my writers, I say annoying because I say it so many times and they're sick of it, but when they're pitching, and it's not clear of the why does this matter to me? They get that question. Why the hell does, specialist Joe Smith out in Kansas care to read this story? I think about we try to think about the soldier, the Marine, the sailor out there that's going to actually read this thing. And we're thinking about them. They've got a busy feed. they're scrolling all day, and they're skipping a lot of stuff. We want them to stop in their tracks and be excited about what's happening at Task, or how Task and Purpose is going to cover it. We're going to come at them with a really good angle on the news. And then once they get in there, I'm really big on, really high quality writing. I want the writing to stand out at Task and Purpose, and I want it to show our competitors, like, we're better than you guys. We can cover these things in a better way, and it's more compelling, and it's a better read for our audience. The value add sometimes is not necessarily new information. It's about how you actually put it out, package it, and provide that information to the readers. So if you excite them, if you get them happy about what they're reading, if they're getting to the end of the story and they're like, damn, that was a really great story, and then we know we did a good job. So we have a small staff, they're all working really, really incredibly hard to do the daily kind of what's going on, the day-to-day in the day-to-day military world. We love freelancers. We really use primarily for freelancers of features and sort of things that are not in the news cycle. I don't really approve stories that I need to turn around with a freelancer very quickly, because I want my freelance stories to be things that I can kind of plug into my editorial calendar when and where I can plug them in where I have a gap, where it fits. So the freelance stories I really like are things that are going to really excite readers, things that are super interesting, compelling. Things about military history definitely are great for us, and especially things that connect the past to the present. We love investigative stories. I've got a couple of them going on right now that will hopefully break some news and break some hearts in the military public affairs world. And yeah, we're just looking for stuff that really, really gets our audience talking. And we want to be the platform for conversation about the military, and that's where we're really trying to go. We want conversations to start at Task and Purpose. So we cover things about what's going on within the ranks. We also want to cover things that will have impact and will drive meaningful change within the military, and that's around things that are really important to our readers. Things like the suicide crisis, sexual assault prevention, sexual harassment, diversity initiatives, and also lately extremism in the ranks. So we have a lot of things that we like to cover, but I think that's about it. So I will leave the floor. It's all Tyler.
Thank you, Paul. Extremely proud of how much that site has grown and flourished, and the work they do daily. Really needed an awesome voice in the mill space. Last but very much not least, I have Tyler Rogaway here, who's EIC and founder of the War Zone, which is the other giant defense site in our network. He's also the military strategy lead for our whole company, so he helps to define where we should be expanding into and what they're doing. And I'll let Ty take it away and talk about TWZ.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for having all of us. Greatly appreciate it. Awesome to have this type of engagement. Hopefully something good comes of it. We'd love to have more of your veterans just in general in the company overall, not just writing for us. So always keep in contact. Make sure to ask any of us about opportunities that are just beyond writing as well. There's plenty of them with the company. Want to just talk briefly about the War Zone. So this is a site. This is not a job for me, and really for my writers. This is something that we feel very passionate about. It's something that we produce every day with incredible care and incredible energy, and that's what it takes to compete in this space, quite frankly, to really make a dent. And so we cover everything having to do with military technology, and especially how military technology intersects with strategy and foreign policy. That's what makes the site very unique. It's just not about the technology and what it is, but also how it impacts the larger world, not just the battle space. And we also do some other writing that does go into the strategy and tactics end as well. But that's generally what our core mission is all about. Really, by doing this, we try to produce a site that's much more in depth than what you're going to get pretty much anywhere else, and also much more agile. We react faster. We produce content and put it together in a way that, you know, I always say my mom could read this, understand what it is, who doesn't know anything about some of this stuff, or somebody that developed the weapon system we're talking about can walk away and say there wasn't one error in that piece and it was totally solid. And maybe they even took away something new, a new perspective that they didn't have beforehand. So great detail, expertise, agility, that's really what we're all about. When it comes to coverage, like I say, everything from technology profiles, weapon systems, to what's going on in the world around us. We're known for our rolling coverage on breaking events, which are anything from, you know, when cruise missiles are launched in a country to when some guy steals a Dash 8 and flies it over Seattle and F-15s are chasing them. We give live update coverage using open source information that is nothing else in the world. There's no other site that does this, and it's very unique to us. It's very exciting. And we offer a perspective that just isn't out there, and it's something we're very proud of. Also really in-depth features, right? That's what we're all about, is getting, especially from subject matter experts, people that were there, that have used these systems, that were in a particular conflict or had designed a particular thing. Getting those perspectives is really what makes the site so special, and not just in 1,200 words, but I'll do them in, I've done a 60,000 word piece. I've done a book with somebody before. Why? Because it deserved it. And it delivered to our audience a depth that just didn't exist anywhere else on the internet on a particular topic. So everything from short news to long in-depth features, but everything gets serviced enough where really we don't write about it unless we have something to add to it. We're not there just to tell you what the news is for the day. We only touch topics that we think we can actually move the ball forward on. Our newsroom is very unique. It's extremely energized. It's extremely fast. We're all remote, but it is, I always say, if you love to wake up every morning and not know what the day is going to be and structure is not your thing, this is a dream job for you. And also we have the editorial freedom like nowhere else I know. We do and create whatever we want every day. We don't have corporate people coming in and telling us how to write, when to write it, or who to write it about. We do exactly what we want when we want. And that is very true for Task and Purpose as well. That is not just about the war zone. That is something that the company has embraced, and we're very proud of that. And I think it shows in the work that comes out the other end. We don't have editors that just cut a third because that's their job, right? That's not how we operate. We really value, especially contributors that take the time to interface with us on this level. We extremely value what they put on the page, and we make sure that as much of it is conveyed to the audience as possible. So it's a very fast-paced environment, and it changes minute to minute. And if you like unpredictability and the hunt and the chase, it is amazing. I pinch myself every day that I have the job that I do and I'm able to do it the way I am. I work with the people I do, Patrick, Paul, Kyle. This is a special place. This isn't some big corporate media company coming in saying this is our job fair today. I'm telling you this, I've worked for 4 major media companies. This is the best experience I've ever had. You'd be very lucky to have a job here in any way, and we'd be lucky to have you, and we value you. So when it comes to advice and joining the team, where do you fit in, right? Just ask yourself that. What do you have to offer to us, and what platform can we offer you, right? So what expertise or experiences have you had in your life that maybe is a great story to tell, or an interest that you've had that you'd like to convey to people in a much more journalistic way than you have in the past? I've had people that have never written a story before and have no journalism background at all write for me and end up working for me full time. I've had people that have written for academia for years write for me, and it's all valuable. So I would say don't discount yourself. Try to find out what you can bring to the table. Talk to one of us, whether it's about, home improvement or it's about cars or it's about the military. And usually we can help you place where you need to go. And if it's something that I don't maybe interested in, Paul might have a great idea for it. So don't just limit to yourself to one brand either if you want to get involved in this way in journalism and with our company. Freelancers, right? Same thing. I mean, this is whether you're full-time or not, but the freelancer thing is really a great opportunity because it gets you in the door. It allows you to see if you like this. It allows you to learn a lot of great techniques that we can offer to you. And we see it as an investment, right? I put a lot of time and even a novice writer because I think they're going to become a great writer, right? And they have a great story to tell. And then they're going to invest in us. And we keep very high loyalty because of that. It's just people just don't go off and say, that was a good article, I'm going to go pitch something next door. They understand that it's a process of always learning. And my team, every day we come into work, we learn something. My contributors the same way, whether that's writing a better post or that's learning about some incredible information somebody has to share that maybe could change things in ways that they didn't even imagine. The Warzone's future. It's, this has always been a small site. It really has. There's a quality control that goes into it that makes it that way. Now we're growing very quickly and being pushed to grow, which is a great thing, thank God, in some ways. But, I think in a year we'll be probably triple the size and be doing some really new things. The Warzone's 100% experimental. It was created that way. We try all different things at all different times. And frankly, the other sites are like that too. We're not super unique in that way. So new ideas pop up, any way that we can innovate in the industry, not just in our writing, but how we produce content. We do it through open source intelligence gathering. It's kind of our mastery of what the Warzone does. But other sites have very unique ways to do things as well that we would want to double down on in the future, not just to keep up with the competition, but rewrite the book for everybody else. We should be disrupting the space or we're not doing our job right. I mean, that's just the reality of media today. So, but that's the Warzone and a little bit about the military vertical and maybe a little bit more about Recurrent just from my perspective. And once again, thank you for having me. And I look forward to hearing from any of you if you have any interest.
That was awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you going as in depth as you did there. And as I talk about the company in general, I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find two defense senators who know more than these last two guys who talked. And just, I think that the lesson I've been trying to drive here is that if, don't limit yourself and your journalism career to being just, what you think people want you to do or what you think should be done, go after what interests you. And especially if it's something that you've done before and really know really well. So yeah, I think I hope this has been really informative and useful for everybody. I know we're kind of tight on time, but if we have any questions from the MVJ members who are on this call at all, I'd love it if you chimed in and did that. I'm gonna, I think, stop sharing my screen now and just turn that over to anybody who wants to chat. Yeah, Devin, what's up?
Yeah, so we did actually have one question that was dropped in the chat, and Kristen kind of answered it, but I'm sure members would like to hear from everybody. How much attention do you pay to balancing things like human interests with technical info? Do you strive for a balance in each article or a balance across your publication and site?
I think it's a kind of a per site answer. I tend to always think that people are more interesting than cars or tech or hardware, and and I think that I think our defense sites especially have done a really good job of considering who uses and is on the other end of those things. I don't know if any of the other editors here have a better answer to that than I can come up with. Anybody? Yeah,
I think you're right, Patrick. It's definitely equal parts, right? And it's an interesting question to pose because I think, in terms of journalism, writ large and the myriad of publications that exist in the world, human interest sometimes gets has a pejorative connotation to it. And it's, at least at Popsci, it's very much not true. It's sort of we're not going to, our mission, right? We want to bring the science and the tech to your doorstep, right? That is a human interest mission, but to also be core to ourselves, the other half of the mission is is the technical information, but not in an explanatory and illuminating way, as opposed, and almost using the human interest to drive the interest in the unpacking of the tech. So it's sort of one of those snake eating its own tail things, at least in our neck of the woods.
I can also hazard an answer here. Just real quick on CNP, like this is kind of it's really the way we frame stories and write them. It's from that human perspective. We always are thinking about the reader at the end of the day. It's like, it's less about the piece of gear or, you know, the aircraft that, you know, so the headline for us is not going to be, you know, Army fields new machine gun. It's going to be soldiers are stoked about this new machine gun that they're getting or something like that. Whereas it's from the perspective of the actual end user that's going to actually use this thing. And we also think about that and when we're covering it, so many outlets will just, you know, kind of like see what the manufacturer says of it or what the military says about the piece of gear, and then, you know, that's, we're done, print it, versus, you know, looking like, asking, hey, do soldiers actually like this thing? Is this a piece of crap, you know, or is this great? You know, like, this is really important to those people, because at the end of the day, they're going to end up using that someday potentially on the battlefield. And so we're going to be those kind of annoying people who ask those really the questions that the DoD usually doesn't want us to. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If nobody else has anything to add on that, does anybody else have any questions? Feel free to unmute and ask if you'd like to.
Sure. So, hi, my name is Devin. I'm actually a photojournalist, but I didn't study photojournalism. After I got out of the U.S. Coast Guard, I studied, well, I'm finishing my degree in sustainability of the environment and peace and conflict studies. And I'm currently the staff photographer for the New York VA hospital while I finish that degree. But I was curious, from the photojournalism standpoint, are you generally getting your photos from wire services? Do you have staff photographers? If you're getting freelance pitches from photographers, do you expect a written story with that? And just in general, what do you expect from freelance photographers if you're getting those pitches? Thank you.
I'll speak real quick for our car sites, if you don't mind. Just like, I know that we've employed a lot of freelance shooters in the past. I think it's fair to say we don't necessarily always expect an article to do with that. We're always looking for good art. We do draw from wire services. Kind of depends on each publication, but I mean, I know that, like, you know, finding a staff photographer job is a tough gig these days in the whole industry, but it's a needed one. I think everybody here respects great visuals and has freelance budgets willing to pay for it, you know, when it really counts and matters, for sure.
I will also jump in and say that it is a like the Drive site-wide rule that if you are going to review a car for us, we are going to not like require, that sounds kind of mean, but like require that you come back with some original photography. And that's because one, original photography shows up better on Google. And two, it's because all of the publications that get invited to that launch are handed the same 10 to 15 photos. So when the embargo drops, everybody posts the same top photo. So if ours looks different, it already makes our product stand aside that much more.
I'm just going to say one thing about the photography real quick. We work with photographers all the time. I'm a photographer as well. And we always pay, we always offer to pay. That's part of our deal. Nobody takes images. The first thing we say is, you know, we're going to pay you for this. Most of the time they don't want it if they're just amateurs, but I think it's key that people pay for images from people, right? I mean, that's a huge thing. I do think that there's an opportunity, especially on either of the military sites I can talk to, that should be more photo essays. Paul, I know, is very passionate about this, probably more than I am. And in doing that, I believe in extremely media-rich articles and pieces. So we're not doing probably enough in featuring photos as the actual content as we could, outside of a news peg. So if, I mean, do you ever want to talk about with either of us, pitch on those ideas? I'm happy to listen to it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, sorry, finish Tyler's thought.
Thank you. I'll just say, just to Tyler's point, I'm open to any pitch really, and I think like we've done a few times. We've done photo essays. I really like that format, and true to form. It's like, here's how soldiers are, what soldiers are seeing on the ground during the Afghan evacuation is like one example. So if you have photography like that, that's obviously military related, that sort of can take someone through a story, I will definitely publish that. I think it wouldn't need to be a full-on story, but I think at a minimum, it just needs, a good headline and an introduction, something like a few paragraphs. And then really the whole hook of the story is about the photos. And that would be perfectly fine with me. So sorry, go ahead, Corinne.
No, it's totally fine. So we commission photo essays. We have a few photographers who bring us ideas. We publish not a ton, probably between 6 and 10 a year, but there's always an appetite for more. And in terms of we want, because for us, for a photo essay, right, it's about either the idea or the access, right? What are we seeing that we haven't seen before? Like, what veil are we pulling back? And we're happy, to work with you on, curating and selecting photos. It's an exercise that we do. We have a photo editor who's works exclusively on our premium content, but we also, flex those muscles online as well. And we just pair you with a writer. Usually it's somebody internal who could just really work with you on the photo curation side, but also on just figuring out what we would call deep captions, right? Because it's the gallery is beautiful, but to take it to that Popsci level, we need to do that extra level of explanatory journalism. And Patrick is probably waiting for the next thing, or that I was going to say was that I also do oversee popular photography, and we're extremely hungry for original photography on that site as well. Particularly photographs, again, that are unique, that are offering a new angle, but also the photographer's perspective, right? Because the pop photo is about photographers expressing their either photojournalistic or artistic voice. So it very much doesn't need to be newsy there. So that's definitely something we can talk about.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I believe we will go ahead and call it here. Thank you so much to everybody for attending, and thank you to Patrick and all the Recurrent Ventures editors that have joined us today. We really appreciate you guys working with us. And then if anybody would like the recording of this session, we will have it posted on our YouTube channel within the next few days. Thank you so much for being here. Patrick, do you have anything else to add?
I don't. Just thank you all for joining us for this. This has been wonderful. I hope it's the first of many. Please keep us in mind for any, especially with your job hunting. And if you know folks who are looking around, we are growing fast and we need good talent. And we are excited to keep working with you. So thank you for your time tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Thank you.